Now, so I'm Emma Laffey and I'm here with Mary Matthews and we're going to talk about Catherine Mathot ní McNally. And she was your mum.
She was my mum,
and
yes.
she was a midwife here in the Duleek area.
Yes.
So if we might start at the beginning and when she was kind of born and where she came in the family and stuff, Mary.
She was the eldest child born. Her mother was a midwife in Balbriggan, and her mother met her father in Balbriggan. He was working in a pub in Balbriggan, and they met and got married. And my mother was the first child, but my granny, her mother, originally came from Duleek, and her father and mother were still living here, and her sister living in Duleek. So my granny then, her mother, became
what was her name, Mary? Mary
Whyte, or McNally ní Whyte.
Okay. Maybe that's where I got the Mary from earlier
on. Could have been.
Yeah.
But she got pregnant a second time and was on the district up in Balbriggan. So my mother, who was about 3 at the time, was sent down to be looked after by her granny and granddad for a short time, and actually never went back.
What was her granny and granddad's name?
Mary Whyte, James and Julia Whyte.
Oh, okay.
They lived here and they just had the 2 daughters, Mary and Julia.
And was that in the house that's across the road here where the Spar is now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So my mother was actually rare there and went to school then in Duleek. So she always felt Duleek was her home rather than Skerries. So she had very close family in Skerries and all that, and they came down regularly and we would have gone up on holidays and all that, but in later life. But she just ended up then that her granny, her aunt, whom she was living with over here, got married to Dick Warren, and they ended up having 8 daughters and they lived in Mount Hanover. So she was very much part of that family, because her aunt Julia would have been the big girl to her growing up, so they would have been very close. So we always said that she was closer to her aunt than she was to her mother.
And that's lovely though too, for her.
Yeah. So in later life then, I think she was only 9 when her granny died.
Oh.
But then she still had her aunt living there with her, so she never went back home.
Stayed with her aunt.
Stayed with her aunt and her grandfather. And then after she got married then, I don't know when Julie got married, but she had babies, one after the other, because he was a farmer and he wanted a son, but he never had a son. He had all 8 girls.
Wow.
So that was a big disappointment for him.
And some of the girls are as good as any lad on a farm.
Well, as it turned out, they were.
Yeah.
So from there then, her granny, when she died then, my mother just still stayed and then became very close to her grandfather and really ended up looking after the grandfather. In this little hut of a house. Really, it was a terrible house.
She must have a really nice caring nature about her.
Very easygoing. My mother was very easygoing. She was a great woman. But she then, in later life then, she went and done the midwifery. Very much later life.
So she went to local school here then, and
she went
to
she just went to national
and a bit in the secondary school.
The presentation in Drogheda then. And
what age do you think she was when she went to do the midwifery then?
She was very late, in her 30s.
Oh right, okay.
She was coming to 30.
Yeah.
She was born in 1915, and in 1944 she qualified. So she would have been 29.
Yeah, coming up to 30.
29.
Yeah.
But that is because she was busy here with the grandfather
caring for family members.
And she was a very happy person. She,
And where did she qualify, Mary? Do you know?
Holles Street.
Yeah.
So that was, she qualified anyway and was on the district. But we don't know a load about the district prior to us coming on the scene.
Yeah.
Because she got married in 1946 and had children one after the other. She had 5 children. And then, of course, my father being Dutch, the Dutch are like, they're like you know, and the man is the man, you know.
And that's it.
And that's it. So my mother was not working, of course, at that time because we came so quick together. And
where did she meet her husband now, him being a Dutchman?
She met her husband up in Skerries, up in Loughshinny. All the Dutch people came over during the Depression. And my father was qualified horticultural man. We have his degrees there.
There's a lot of vegetable growing in Skerries. It was a huge place for glass houses and...
this was flowers.
Flowers he was doing.
My father was an expert rose.
Oh my gosh.
Rose man.
And where would he have sold his flowers to?
Oh, loads of places. He had a little dicky Fiat, a little tiny Fiat, and he used to bring them to Woolworths and all those different
all
places.
The supermarkets and places.
Anywhere. But he had all his connections, because he was involved with Rurocks and Skerries as well, and De Youngs and all the Dutch people. They were great friends of ours and very good to us when my father died. The Rurocks, great friends.
Isn't it amazing?
Supplied us with our confirmation clothes and everything.
Looked after you all the time.
Yeah.
So you were very young then when your father passed away?
I was 5, and my elder sister was 6. So she had 5 children between 1.5 and 6.
Oh God! And so the people of Skerries really did.
They did
look after your
mum.
Did.
Yeah. Well, the Rurocks did, and my own uncles and aunt.
Did she ever go back to the midwifery after that?
Yeah,
she did.
That's when she went into it. You see then. So when my father died, there was a collection. Yeah, going back to my father working in De Youngs, he worked in Loughshinny De Youngs first. And we've a lot of stories about that from my uncle who worked there. And that's how my mother met my father, through my uncle who was working there. And my father would go to my granny's house maybe for something to eat in that time with my Uncle Tom. And that's how my mother met him.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. So...
would she have been, I suppose when she went back then she would have done the district midwifery, because the Lourdes Hospital would have been kind of starting to kick off maybe after that.
No, it was only the district.
The district here she done.
Only the district.
And would she have had her bike or a little car?
Oh, she had her bike.
Had her bike, the High Nelly.
The bike, yeah.
Oh, you have? Oh, brilliant.
Well, sitting outside in one of the pictures.
Oh, fantastic. And do you remember her little bag? And
oh yeah, I remember her case. She had this little case, you know. And we were living, of course, across the road. We didn't even have electricity, really, over there at that time. And you know, when my father died, the local people collected and bought her a knitting machine.
Oh.
To get her some money. All she had was the widow's pension, which was terrible at the time. She got
no money for
£1.12 and 6 a week.
There's no living on it.
And if she bought a bag of coal or a cylinder of gas, that was it, gone nearly. There's no money.
Yeah.
And then someone told her at some stage that she'd qualify for free shoes for the children. And she went off with a friend of hers, I don't know, was Trim or Navan on the bike, and was refused. So she never looked for anything after that. She just became so independent.
Well, she got, well, it was probably a small bit of embarrassment as well, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, she was well Jewish.
Yeah.
Been a widow.
Well Jewish. She was no much children's allowance at that time, as you know.
And is there would there be many stories of her doing her little midwifery around? I'm sure there is.
Oh, I said review. But anyway, what was the next thing I was going to say?
No, we're all right. Was she so when her husband died, then she went back to the midwifery.
Well, she got the knitting machine.
And got the knitting machine.
Knitting machine. And this was a little tiny house across here. We can still have such memories. My sister still has the thing that you pull over and back for the knitting machine. We had it for ages and it got rusty then, so we sort of got rid of it.
Yeah,
but kept this just as the souvenir, you know.
Yeah.
But it was terrible pressure on her. The knitting machine was awful pressure. She had all these children in this house over here, and the back room of the house over there was like riddled with water. It was so damp.
Oh, bless her.
There was a house next door adjoining us, and they had TB. The houses were deplorable at the time, and I can still see the water running down the back wall. So she had us all in the front room. We all
afraid of her life, he'd get sick.
Yeah. So she was minding us and trying to do the knitting, and it was horrendous for her. It was really awful.
Tough.
And she'd be up at night, and then people were so good to sort of, we would give Mrs. Mathot to knit the jumpers and a different club, a cycling club, you know.
Yeah.
Trying to give her work. Give her work, yeah. Because she couldn't have gone out on the district at that time because she'd all the children. So that really brought her down a lot. We could see it.
Oh, it would, of course.
Because she was up at night and, you know, it was hard.
Well, she was working hard and getting over.
It was very hard.
Yeah.
And that sort of went on and on and on. And then she eventually went back to the midwifery then. Went back
a
to
position
the
must have come up or something.
Must have.
Yeah.
I think there was a midwife here, Mrs. Garrity, and I'd say after her time...
Retiring maybe, she just said, right, this is it now.
She got that.
Yeah.
So she went on the district and you knew she loved it, you know. Aww. She was so happy going, even though it was at every hour of the day or night. So we were all these 5 young children on our own in this little hovel of a house. So we had a great friend, Mrs. Conlon's great friend of Mammy's was, and she looked after us a good bit. But then we also had a girl who would have been, we'll say 14, that lived up the street, and she was our forever friend for life.
Aww.
She came and minded us. So Mommy would go up to Maureen's, knock on the door. Maureen would come down if it was during the night.
Just to stay with you, just have someone
with you.
Stay
with us and bring us to school and all that, you know. So we had a lot of hardship now, I'd have to say. We lived in poverty.
But by God, you've seen your mother, a strong woman.
She was some woman.
She's tough out.
She's tough, and thrived on it. And people would say, oh, Mrs. Mathot, you were a great woman. She'd turn around and she'd say, God was good, he got me to work.
He got me, yeah.
That was her attitude.
She was so happy to have her job back. But for her, even herself, to be able to afford to look after you.
Yeah.
You know, and take a little bit of, even though now she wasn't going to be tripping the life fantastic full of money, it would have took the pressure off her. Yeah. It would have took the pressure off her.
Duleek wasn't that big of a place at the time.
No, it was only a tiny little rural village.
So there wasn't, I know people had a lot of babies, but she wouldn't be going all the time with that either, you know.
Yeah.
And then she got 4 guineas for that, 4 guineas for the case, which was 9 days. You had to go 9 days on your bike. It could be up to Belliostown, it could be to Loughor, it could be anywhere. Yeah. So she had to attend this woman, first deliver the baby, and then go to the house for 9 days.
Postnatal care then.
Postnatal care for 9 days. And then she sort of ended up in very close to all those families, you know.
Yeah.
We'd be going for tea maybe up to Timul to some woman up there that had a few babies by my mother, you know, and it probably would have been that my mother was going anyway on her visit and brought us along and we got the tea maybe in that house.
But there's such trust in her.
Yeah. So she would have gone to a lot of those houses. But my sister, I'd have been the eldest because she would have been more alert when my father died. So I had a lot of hang-ups about being left on her own and worried about my mother a lot, you know.
She worried a lot.
Worried.
Yeah.
So Ina would tell you to this day, when you go down the street here and cross, there's the Nanny Bridge, but there was people up there, a couple of families up there that had a lot of children, like up near Belliostown, we'd say. And Ina would go down and stand on the bridge and wait to see my mother coming down and run home, you know, because she was so worried that something was going to happen. And she said in later life she actually hated them women that were having all these babies.
Taking her money away. Well, she was probably afraid something's going to happen to her mother because her father died so suddenly as a young child. Yeah. So the fear was she didn't want to lose her mammy as well. Yeah. Isn't that awful? The poor little thing.
I know. And then Ina got sick then. Ina got very sick then. She got rheumatic fever and ended up in Dublin and I think it was Piedmont or whatever it was that time. And that was over in that house too, which was very unhealthy, do you know? Yeah. And my mother was terribly worried about her and we couldn't go to see her in the hospital or anything like that. And you had to get there was a little shop next door, and she used to let us see the Irish press every day.
To see what was going on.
To see her number was 121, 121, and that's the only way you knew how your child was.
So they published it?
They published every day in the press.
How the child was doing? Oh, right, okay.
Whatever, critical, improve, whatever, anyway. So that's the only way my mother could see. I
never heard that now. No. That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a big thing in our lives. That was big.
It would have been because you had your sister so sick.
Yeah.
But just that they did that.
My mother wouldn't be allowed in to see her or anything.
But it's a lovely way to let people know as well when you can't, isn't it? You're not given any information, but you have their number to know how they're doing.
But that woman that had the shop over there, Barley O'Bide, she was a great friend of my mother's, and she would just run in with the paper and show us, I can
to make it
memories
ease
of that.
to your mum.
Wouldn't have to buy the paper.
God, that must have been an awful worry for your mammy. Yeah. Did your mammy live to a good age?
She was in her 91st year,
Yeah, they're unbelievable. All of them seem to have longevity.
I know.
They were tough out.
Oh, she was great. But
so many years would she have worked then in the community here? Would have been 10 or 20?
I'd say maybe 10.
Yeah.
And then a position came up in the Cottage Hospital in Drogheda. And that's where she went to then.
To finish up to retirement. So she went to work in maternity services in the Cottage
Hospital, yeah. And cycled in and out to that. And we were still fairly young now.
Yeah.
And the shift was from 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 till 5. Or then she could be 8 till 8, but she'd be off 2 to 5.
I know what you mean.
Time.
Yeah.
So there was often times that she went in for 8. She'd give us our breakfast in the bed before she went.
Oh, bless her.
So that we'd waken up and be up.
Ready for
school.
So
we'd get the tea and toast. You have the memory of the crumbs in the bed, We'd have tea and toast. That was just waking you up. And off she went on the bike. That'd be like 6:30 or something. And she'd be off on the bike, hail, rain or snow, into Drogheda. And cycle home. And then oftentimes, if some of us weren't well or during the winter time, she'd cycle home between 2 and 5 to have the dinner ready.
Make sure you were all right.
And to see that you'd be okay. And that would be if there was a patient maybe from Duleek in, that she'd get the lift home.
I know what you mean.
And then one of us would have to collect the bike. She'd leave the bike in a place in Drogheda, and I was one Sacred Heart at the time.
And you get the bike cycled
home. And I
home.
had to collect the bike down in O'Neill's, down there at the bottom of Mary Street.
She unreal.
Yeah.
But those routine hours must have been a godsend to her as well, that she kind of knew where she was going with them, with a young family on her own.
But the days then that she was off, was fabulous. You had the dinner ready when you come home, and we were so used to looking after ourselves. We'd done everything for ourselves growing up.
I know.
We had,
it was tough for her too.
It was tough.
Can you imagine the turmoil she had? Because she knew leaving you, and she didn't want to leave you, but she had no choice but to leave you to make money. Everything was left on her shoulders.
I know. But she was tough. She was like a woman before her time.
Yeah.
She was very relaxed, but my God, if anything happened,
you'd see the strength in her. Yeah.
She'd stand up.
And face whatever it was.
Yeah, when she was on the district, she had an episode of a woman who delivered twins, and she went out, and the father came to collect her during the night on a tractor or something, and she went off, and the woman women didn't even have any examinations or anything prior to that, so you didn't know what you were going into.
No, they didn't know what they were facing. They were brilliant.
So she went to this woman anyway, and deliver the baby, to discover there was another baby breech, and she couldn't deliver the baby.
Oh God!
She had no facilities. She didn't know what to do. So she got the father to go for a doctor anyway, that a doctor would have to come, and the doctor refused to come because she was an unmarried mother.
Oh, that's shocking. Well, that is very common.
Yeah.
And the poor girlie left to it then.
And the girl was left, but in the meantime, my mother anyway delivered the baby safe and sound, the twins.
Thank God.
And in later life then, that woman came regularly with these twins to her,
Loved her.
Yeah.
Yeah, because for kindness. But a kindness seems to be a theme that's running through with these women as well as their strength.
Yeah.
they just had this stability about them, and the women, I suppose their fears were cast aside when they'd see them coming in, because they knew they could trust them.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Loads of little stories like that, you know, and then when she died, like all the people that came with the stories we knew nothing about.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
It was just...
And lovely stories too, I'd say.
We were sitting up the front of the church and the night time, because she went the night beforehand, you know, they'd done that, like that's all gone now, you don't bring the bodies now the night before to the church. But it was I couldn't explain how emotional and how wonderful it was. All the people that came with all the stories, you couldn't even remember half of them, about that they had no money and the child was making the first communion and my mother supplied the rosary beads and the prayer book and all this carry on. And we with nothing. Do you know?
I know, but she knew that they were worse off than what she was. Yeah.
And another girl then said she could remember when her brother was born, and that was way down in Platten, like a good distance away. She would be going every day, or, you know, for the 9 days. And she said she can remember her bringing a block of ice cream for the other children.
That was like gold.
Yeah.
Do you imagine their little faces?
It wasn't just, you were there for the whole family.
It was kindness.
It was kindness, yeah.
It's the women. She knew the hardship the women had.
I know.
And some of the sights they saw for the women them times was tough.
I know.
Women had a very hard time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And sure, all they wanted was that kind face coming in when they were didn't know what was coming to them.
Oh yeah.
You know.
She was just an exceptional person.
And I suppose maybe with your adult head, you see, as a child you want your mother. Yeah. And that's a natural instinct. Yeah. But as an adult looking back, now you see just that she's like a superwoman. How she managed to do it,
you know. Just a superwoman.
Yeah.
We'd never had anything. And like the Dutch people were very good to us. Then we got the house built down the bottom of the street and we're in there with really nothing. You know.
It must have felt like a palace though.
It was like a palace.
Yeah.
But I have memories of her being so strong down there. I can remember when we were along in the house and there was a little trap door on the back, scullery, you know, the little sculleries that was used on. And there was this noise up on the roof, you know. And oh my God, it was a rat. A rat. But she had a big pot of boiling water, opened that trap door, and just the rat vanished. We can still see the rat squirming, you know.
He didn't come back.
But she was protecting her children from everything.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious. Isn't she funny?
Yeah, and
as you said, no matter what came up, she dealt with it.
She dealt with it, yeah.
And that was it.
And then she done I don't know. I was writing down a few.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah, do.
Go
through them there and see what you have. Just take your time. I can blank bits out here and that, so don't be worried about any of that.
Oh yeah, there was a girl that had a friend, a girl the same age as myself. They live way out. Gaskins turn way up that side. But she was telling us about my mother. She was at school and she came home and my mother was there. She saw the bike outside, you know, and the case was inside and her father was there. And she says to the father said, "Oh, Miss Nurse Mathot is here. He's after bringing us a new baby." And she said, "Oh." So she said, "Oh, yeah, new baby." I don't know whether she was pleased or not, you know. So anyway, she sort of quizzed the father and said, "How did you bring the baby?" "In the case," he said to her. And she said, "Look at the case, there's a hole in the case."
Oh.
Which there was a little hole in the case. We're getting well battered at this stage. And he said, that was for the baby to breed.
Oh, as quick as lightning.
Quick as lightning, no.
We see kids will ask you the questions that hang in really quick.
But you know, it's a different little thing.
It's a common theme too with the bags, you know. Yeah. We have another lady buying a Kelly. She never married, but like that, it was known as buying his bag, and they always knew when the bag was outside on the bike.
Oh yeah.
they always thought that the baby came in. She'd one of those Gladstone bags, you know, the big ones. So and it got robbed at one stage because somebody had a baby here and next door wanted one. So they thought if they nicked the bag, they'd get one. But anyway, it doesn't work like that. But the bag went missing. The Garagine and was out looking for it. But there's so many lovely stories around the bags. But the bag is gone anyway. So, did she wear a uniform, Mary? Did she have certain clothes she would have wore for it?
I can't remember that she had a uniform going. I can't remember.
Skirt and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, she was just matronly looking probably.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. She would be timed. They'd be coming in the middle of the night and everything. Even the time of big snow in 1981 here, it was we were very badly affected here that time, and she was like finished baby and Alfred and all that. You know, it was only that. She was old at that stage. But this man from way out, his wife went into labour and the roads were completely closed.
And he came for her? He
came for my mother through the fields. How he was going to get her, he didn't know. He came by foot, like, you know.
Poor man.
But came knocking on my mother's window anyway. And sure, there was nothing they could do. They couldn't get out. But in the meantime anyway, the baby was delivered. The woman delivered the baby herself, I think, do you know? But they had to get, the road was completely closed, and from Platten, you know, the factory down here, they got a digger out from Platten to clear the road because this woman was having the baby, and we had to get my mother over at the corner and hoist her up onto the digger. At that age, like,
but she didn't.
I know if she went, but the baby was delivered, but
everything was, she just had to tidy up bits and pieces. God, we're lucky to have her.
Or, you know, so there's loads of that sort of stuff. Do you know,
it's
she was
fantastic.
available at all times, you know. Even when she was retired, she was still available. And she wouldn't think anything of laying out people, or never thought anything of sickness.
Yeah.
Never thought. There was one woman here, like, long before my time, like, I don't remember, but she had TB, and the local undertaker came to my mother to see, because other people wouldn't go to lay the woman out because she had died from TB.
Right.
Well, my mother went and laid her out, and for years later, and then just always would say, that's the woman now, and I put a few flowers on her baby.
Oh.
You know, that sort of thing.
And would she have done that regular enough, laying?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been another part of her service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she would have done.
And you were saying her mother was a midwife as well?
Her mother was a midwife.
And do you know where she trained or anything?
I don't know.
So did she service the Balbriggan area then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She had to do that. She'd done that. That would be around
1920s, 30s.
Oh, prior to that.
Yeah.
She was born in 1888. So she was married. My mother was born in 1915. So she would have been working up there in
early 1900s. Yeah.
Yeah, 1912, I'd say.
Up, and she worked right through as well, would she?
Yeah. She didn't, I don't know how long she worked for, because as she had children, I don't remember her doing that, like when we were
small,
no.
Yeah. No. It's amazing too.
Yeah.
And you don't know where she trained?
No.
What was her name now? I'll write her name down now.
Mary Whyte.
With a Y?
Y, yeah.
Let's see if I can find out about her.
Her address was, she was Duleek.
Duleek?
Yeah. And then there was
But she worked as a community midwife in Balbriggan.
Not here, no, she didn't. But I would say that's why I'd say my mother's grandfather knew that, like, his daughter was a midwife, and then sort of said, well, this would be good enough for
to earn
Kathleen,
money,
you know, to earn money, to give her a career now, because he knew he had her, and she looked after him, and he wanted to pay her back, and he had to pay that time.
You did? You had to pay for the training, yeah.
So he paid for that. So
he really got her on her feet, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He really did.
Yeah, he got her on her feet. Do you have any pictures of the Mary Whyte?
Oh, yes.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Picture
of the whole lot.
I have a case, some like my mother's up there.
You have the case?
You have the case
as well?
Stuff.
Well, we'll just take a picture of the case. That'd be fabulous. Just to have it on our little...
But it's not hers. Is it? Not my mother's case. No, it's only something like it.
Oh, it's only something like it. Oh, right.
One I bought just in memory.
Oh. Well, it was a similar type case, was it? Yeah. Was it more like a suitcase?
Yeah,
small square one with a little handle on it. Yeah, they either had that or they had this
type of thing. It was
that's right.
Cardboardy.
Yeah, inside.
That would be the hole in it.
Yeah. Oh, they were brave out. I think that's lovely now, Mary. We've loads on her. Loads. So we'll take a few of the pictures now. Yeah, I can add it onto it.